Most cleaning owners don't have a manpower problem. They have a dependency problem. Every inquiry depends on them being available. Every quote depends on them replying. Every follow-up depends on them remembering. So the business doesn't slow down when they are tired. It stops. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Not tools, not AI, not software, but how a cleaning business changes once the owner is no longer the bottleneck. Let's start with reality. If you run a small cleaning business, your day probably looks like this. Messages coming in on WhatsApp at all hours. Customers asking the same questions again and again. 3-room or 4-room. Weekend price. Move out cleaning. You reply when you can, between jobs, the MRT, late at night. Sometimes you forget to follow up. Sometimes the customer goes quiet. Sometimes you realize too late they book someone else. And none of this is because you're bad at business. It's because the business relies on you to think, reply, decide, and remember every single time. So growth feels exhausting. Hiring admins feel risky. And scaling feels like a trap. This is chaos. Not noisy chaos, mental chaos. Now here's the shift. Instead of asking, how do I reply faster, you ask, what decisions can the business make without me? This is where most people misunderstand automation. They think it's about replacing humans. It's not. It's about pre-deciding. Pre-deciding what information is needed, how prices are calculated, when follow-ups happen, when the owner actually needs to be involved. So imagine this version of the same business. An inquiry comes in. Instead of the owner thinking, typing, calculating, the business calmly collects the right information. Not more, not less, just enough. The quote is produced consistently, not emotionally, not based on memory, based on rules the owner already believes in. If the customer says yes, great. The owner steps in. If the customer goes quiet, the business follows up automatically. No chasing, no awkwardness, no forgetting. Nothing magical happened. The business didn't get smarter. The owner didn't work hard. The business just stopped depending on real-time human attention. That's the system. Now let's talk about what actually changes. And I want to be clear here. Scale does not mean more staff, more vans, more stress. Scale means the business behaves the same on a good day and a bad day. It means inquiries don't pile up when you're busy. Quotes don't change depending on your mood. Follow-up don't depend on memory. Revenue isn't tied to how fast you reply. You stop being the bottleneck. And once that happens, something interesting changes. You don't feel desperate for every lead. You don't feel guilty when you miss a message. You don't feel trapped inside your own business. You finally have control. Not because you worked more, but because the business learned how to operate without constant supervision. That scale, quiet scale, calm scale, sustainable scale. Now, I want to be very clear. What I've shared today is not a client case study. I'm not showing tools. I'm not teaching you how to build this. This is a reference way of thinking, a way to look at your workflow and ask, where am I unnecessarily involved? Because most small businesses don't need more apps. They need fewer decisions happening in their head. If you run a service business, cleaning, tuition, maintenance, anything similar, and you're wondering which part of my workflow could be removed from my plate, I offer a 30-minute conversation. No sales pitch, no pressure. We'll simply walk through your current workflow, identify where you're the bottleneck, and see which part could be systemized. If nothing makes sense to automate, I'll tell you. The link is in the description. And if this video helped you see your business differently, subscribe, because this channel is about calm systems, not hustle. Your business doesn't need to work harder. It needs to depend on you